The story will be told from the perspective of the main female character.
For 3 weeks, my son's life had a sound. That rhythm was everywhere, day and night. It came from the external pacemaker that was keeping his surgically repaired heart going. I listened to it non-stop until my brain stopped hearing anything else. Then, at 11:42 p.m., the sound stopped. No beep. No rhythms. Just silence. Not normal silence, the kind that slams into your chest and steals the air out of the room. A split second later, another sound replaced it. A sharp electric whine as a 4800 lumen ring light powered on. Bright, harsh, wrong. My brother Travis spoke like nothing serious was happening. Casual, irritated. Finally, decent lighting. I looked up at the wall. The red outlet marked medical equipment only was empty. Then the flatline alarm exploded. The room didn't just get loud, it turned violent. The head nurse Megan didn't tell Travis to move. She tackled him. She slammed his $2,800 streaming setup into the wall. Metal cracked, plastic shattered, I barely heard it. People always talk about fight or flight. Nobody talks about the third option, freeze. It's not panic, it's your brain stepping back to process everything. That's what happened to me. The alarm sounded distant, like it was underwater. I wasn't scared anymore, I was hyperware. I smelled ozone first, sharp and burnt from the outlet. Then I tasted adrenaline, metallic and bitter. To my left, 5 medical staff were working over my son, 7 months old, tiny chest. Their hands were manually compressing it, trying to force his heart back into rhythm. To my right, my family was annoyed. My father, Richard, wasn't looking at my baby. He was looking at his Omega watch. He even tapped the glass, checking the time, like this cardiac arrest was running late. My mother, Laura, was on her knees, not praying. She was brushing white drywall dust off Travis's designer jacket, whispering to him, comforting him, telling him the nurse was crazy for shoving him. A scream rose in my throat. It wanted to beg them to care. But something cold in my brain shut it down. Screaming is for people who still expect help. I didn't. My hand slipped into my pocket. It wasn't shaking from fear. It was shaking from pure hatred. I pulled out my phones. I didn't call 911. I didn't call my husband. I opened the camera, switched to video, pressed record. I framed it perfectly. In the background, blurred chaos, professionals fighting to save a life. In the foreground, clear, sharp 4K footage of my brother complaining about his broken ring light while my son turned blue. I didn't blink, I just watched the timer count up. 1 second, 2 seconds, evidence. Time stopped making sense after that. The room stayed loud, but the sound blurred into one long, unbearable noise. Orders were shouted. Someone called out times. Someone else said his name again and again. I stayed where I was, phone still in my hand, watching everything happen at once and yet feeling like it was taking forever. I didn't know how many seconds passed. I only knew that every moment without that rhythm felt heavier than the last. It took 12 minutes to stabilize Noah. 12 long minutes where the only thing keeping him alive was the steady pressure of a nurse's hands on his chest. No machines, no backup, just human effort standing between life and death. When the doctors finally stepped back, the rhythm returned. It was weaker than before, thin and fragile, but it was there. My knees should have given out. I should have cried with relief. Instead, my body locked up. I stood frozen in the corner, staring at the people who raised me. And for the first time, I didn't see my parents. I saw investors guarding a failing asset. To understand why they didn't care, you have to understand my family. We never had a healthy dynamic. We had a hierarchy. My brother Travis wasn't just the favorite. He was the main character. In my parents' world, reality only mattered if it supported his story. If Travis was winning, the family was successful. If Travis was inconvenienced, the world was unfair. The rest of us were just background characters, NPCs. We existed to support the plot, not interfere with it. For 6 months I had drained my savings. I had taken out a second mortgage. I had fought insurance companies for every pill Noah swallowed. I spent almost $47,000 keeping my baby alive. My parents called that irresponsible. During those same 6 months, They emptied their retirement accounts to lease a BMW iX for Travis's brand image and fund an AI startup that didn't even exist. I used to think they were just being supportive, standing there watching Travis obsessively refresh his subscriber count while my son struggled to breathe. I realized it was something else. It was a sickness. They didn't see a dying baby, they saw a production delay. When the alarm went off, my father didn't hear a child flatlining. He heard audio interference. The sound of his grandson almost dying was, to him, just something that could ruin the sound quality on Travis's pitch video. I looked at my mother. When our eyes met, she didn't offer comfort. She shot me a sharp warning look. "Fix this, you're making a scene." That was the moment the daughter in me died. I understood then that I had been begging for love from people who were incapable of giving it. I had been trying to explain empathy to sharks. I stopped recording, not because I was done but because I had enough. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. The sadness drained out of me, leaving behind something cold and clear. I wasn't their family anymore. I was their creditor, and I was about to collect. You would think this is where apologies come in. That's what normal people do when they almost kill a child. They cry, they beg, they fall apart. My parents didn't do that. They didn't run on guilt. They ran on damage control. The moment the doctors cleared the room, my father went to work. He didn't check on Noah. He walked straight to head nurse Megan. Richard had spent 30 years in corporate risk management, and I watched him slide into that role like muscle memory. He lowered his voice, but the room was quiet enough for me to hear every word. He said the outlet was loose before they arrived. He said the equipment was faulty. He used the phrase preventable facility error. He dropped names of board members he played golf with and threatened her job, trying to scare the woman who had just saved his grandson's life into silence. While he handled the staff, my mother handled me. She grabbed my arm, not gently. Her grip was tight, controlling. She guided me away from the incubator and into the corner. She reached into her purse and pulled out a cocktail napkin and a Parker pen. Her eyes were wide, but not with fear. "We need to get ahead of this, Emily," she whispered. "Travis has angels watching the stream, big investors. If word gets out that there was a medical incident, the optics are terrible. Investors hate messy." She pushed the napkin into my hand. Written on it was a crude, handwritten non-disclosure agreement. Bullet points. No social media. No police reports. The incident was to be described as a family misunderstanding. "Sign it," she said. "For your brother. He's on the verge of a breakthrough. Don't be selfish. You're always so dramatic. Stop overreacting and think about the family's future." I looked down at the napkin, then I looked at her. She called a flatlining infant bad optics. She called my grief drama. She called me selfish. In the past, I would have cried. I would have tried to explain how much that hurt. But the part of me that wanted her approval was already gone. It had flatlined 20 minutes earlier. I didn't tear up the napkin. I didn't throw it at her. I folded it neatly and slid it into my pocket right next to my phone. "You're right, Mom," I said calmly. "We should document everything." She smiled, relieved. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd controlled the damage. She had no idea she'd just handed me my second piece of evidence. I left the PICU. I needed air, but more than that, I needed a secure line. Inside, my family was already arguing about which filter would look best for Travis's apology video, completely unaware that something had shifted. I walked to the far end of the parking lot and dialed a number I knew by heart. The call rang once. Hearing my husband Daniel's voice almost broke me. He was 3,800 miles away, deployed on a carrier in the Pacific. The connection crackled with static, but it was the only thing holding me together. I didn't waste time on hellos. I told him everything, the unplugged cord, the silence, the napkin in my pocket. I expected him to yell. I needed him to yell. Instead, he went quiet. Not confused quiet, focused quiet, the kind of silence you hear when a soldier identifies a threat. "Do whatever you have to do," he said calmly. "Burn it down, Emily, burn it all down. I'll transfer the savings, get the best lawyers in the city. I don't care what it costs." "Roger that," I whispered and hung up. The second call wasn't emotional, it was tactical. I called a digital forensics firm my lawyer had once recommended during my ugly divorce from my ex, a number I never thought I'd need again. I need a scrape, I said. Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, everything from the user Travis the founder in the last 4 hours. Is the content still live? The technician asked. The stream cut, I said, but the VOD is still up. I can get it, he said, but if he deletes it. He won't, I interrupted. He thinks he's the victim. He thinks the comments are on his side. Just get me the data. The video, donation logs, and the full chat history, especially the chat. I knew my brother. His ego fed on engagement. Even hate was monetization to him. He was probably already drafting a clickbait title like Hospital Nightmare. Almost lost my rig. I went back inside the hospital and stopped at the security desk. I didn't ask for a visitor pass. I need to speak to the head of legal compliance, I said. The receptionist looked confused. My name is Emily, I continued. I have video evidence of reckless endangerment on hospital property by a visitor. I also have a written attempt at witness intimidation. I need to speak to your risk officer, not the one currently in the PICU, his boss. I wasn't a daughter anymore. I wasn't a sister. I was building a case. 2 days later, I sat in a conference room with the hospital's general counsel and my own attorney. The air conditioning hummed cold and sterile. A single flash drive sat on the mahogany table between us. My parents were blowing up my phone. 47 missed calls. Texts jumping between "we're family, you're ungrateful, and we'll sue you for defamation." I didn't respond. I turned the phone face down. Silence is a weapon, and I was using it. We have the video, my lawyer said, plugging in the drive. But the forensic team found something else, something worse. He opened a file labeled Chat Log Export, TXT. It was a wall of emojis, slang and hype. Thousands of lines, but one message was highlighted in bright yellow. Look at the timestamp, he said. 11:42 p.m., 1 minute before the alarm. I leaned closer, the blue glow of the screen reflected in my eyes. User MedTech99, yo dude, stop. My stomach dropped. A cold chill ran from my spine to my fingertips. Play the video at that time, I said. My voice sounded flat, mechanical. The lawyer clicked. On screen, Travis was fixing his hair using his phone as a mirror. He squinted at the chat. I watched his lips move. I heard him read it out loud. Yo dude, stop. Red outlet is life support. Travis paused. He glanced at the outlet, then back at the camera. And he laughed. Relax, bro, he said, dripping with arrogance. It's just a backup battery. The kid's fine. I need the lumens. Trust the process. Then he reached down and pulled the plug. The room on screen went silent. This wasn't negligence. Negligence is not knowing better. Negligence is an accident. This was knowledge. He was warned. He acknowledged the risk. And he decided his ring light mattered more than the electricity, keeping my son's heart beating. The hospital's legal counsel went pale. That's not a facility error, he whispered. That's depraved heart recklessness. That's attempted manslaughter. My lawyer corrected him, snapping the laptop shut. And because he broadcast across state lines for profit, we may also be looking at federal wire charges. I stared at the closed laptop. Any last trace of guilt I had left disappeared. In its place was something I didn't expect. Peace. They didn't make a mistake. They made a choice, and I was going to make sure they lived with the consequences. File it, I said, file everything, and send a copy to the district attorney. I didn't leak the video anonymously. I didn't hide behind burner accounts or fake names. I attached my full name to the police report. Stuff like that always ends up online anyway. It wasn't even the video that set everything on fire. It was the chat logs. The internet loves a villain, but it loves justice even more. Within 6 hours, the hashtag #livestreambetrayal was trending #1 worldwide. This wasn't just news anymore. It was a digital execution. I watched Travis's subscriber count, the number he worshipped more than anything, start to drop in real time. Every view, every follower slipping away was like a punch in the gut. Then the bans came, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, all permanently suspended and demonetized. His sponsors ran fast. The energy drink company released a statement to distance themselves. The VPN service cancelled his contract. His entire empire of ring lights, affiliate links, and brand deals collapsed in a single afternoon. The hardest hit wasn't even Travis, it was my father. The optics of a senior risk management officer threatening a nurse to cover up the reckless endangerment of an infant were toxic beyond repair. His company didn't even wait. Security escorted him out before lunch. He lost his job, his pension, and his severance. 40 years of reputation built carefully, gone in a single day. 3 days later they cornered me. Not in the PICU, security had barred them from that floor, but in the main hospital lobby. They looked small. That's the only word I can use. My father's suit was wrinkled. My mother wasn't wearing makeup. Travis looked hollow, pale, glued to a phone that no longer had service. "You have to stop this," my mother hissed, grabbing my arm. Her grip was weak now. "They're foreclosing on the house, the legal fees. Emily, we're going to lose everything. Just make a statement. Say it was a misunderstanding." "Yeah," Travis added, voice cracking. "Come on, Em, my life is over. I can't even get a job at a drive-through. People recognize me. They spit on my car." I took a breath, letting the tension settle around me for a second. I studied their faces, searching for any sign of remorse or concern for Noah. Any hint that they were thinking about him, his heart, his life. Nothing. I pulled out my phone. This time I didn't open the camera. I opened the video file, turned the screen toward them, and pressed play. We all watched the digital ghost of Travis laughing at the warning comment. "Relax, bro, I need the lumens." His laughter echoed between us, heavy and cruel. Travis flinched like he'd been slapped. My father looked away. "You didn't ask for permission," I said softly, letting the weight of every word hang in the air. "You laughed after being warned. That's not a misunderstanding, Mom. That's a confession." I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope, handing it to my father. "What is this?" he asked, his hands trembling. "A restraining order," I said, "and a civil lawsuit for damages." I looked at Travis. "You wanted to be famous. You wanted everyone to watch you. Congratulations, they're watching. And they're not looking away until you pay for every single second of that silence." I paused for a moment, feeling the weight of the confrontation, then turned my back on them and walked toward the elevators. Behind me, I heard my mother start to cry, loud, ugly, theatrical, the kind that used to make me stop everything. This time I didn't. I pressed the button for the cardiac floor, letting the elevator doors close behind me, and went up to see my son. I let myself breathe fully for the first time since the chaos began, collecting myself before I finally faced him.